If you've been around a while, you know that we as Unitarian Universalists have many sacred sources which we honor and which we gain wisdom from. And if you've been here a while, you know that for me in my personal spiritual journey, I find a lot of value and meaning in... Oh, honey. Oh, my baby. I love you.
Mama want to cry down.
Yeah. Oh, sweetheart. If you've been around here a while, you know that for me personally, in my spiritual journey, the Jesus-following tradition of my Christian heritage has meant a lot to me, and I've gained a lot of value and meaning from that. And so today I would love to tell you a story from the Christian Bible. And it's a story that I've actually told here before, early on in my ministry here. And it's one that I've been thinking about a lot these days. Different versions of this story show up in the Gospels according to Mark and Luke and Matthew. And it goes like this. Jesus was traveling with his disciples through a countryside in Galilee. And he is met by a man named Legion who was possessed by demons. This man had been chained up multiple times, but with the power of the demons, he kept breaking free from his chains. He sees Jesus, and the man falls to his feet. And then Jesus commands the impure spirits out of this man's body. He performs an exorcism. And then Jesus sends those exorcised demons into a herd of pigs feeding on a nearby hillside, and then these possessed pigs rush down the hillside into a lake and drown. The people who had been herding those pigs run off then to tell everyone what they had just witnessed. And so you might be asking, Reverend Allie, why has this story been on your mind a lot lately? It's so easy to see it playing out in our minds like a horror movie, right? Like The Exorcist, the man's head turning all the way around, vomiting everywhere, zombie pigs freaking out. It's just another one of those magic Jesus stories, right? There goes Jesus just doing another Jesus-y magic trick because he's Jesus, right? Sure. Until you start asking questions. And us, we love a question. Questions like, why were people raising pigs in ancient Israel? Jesus and his people were Jewish. They would not have eaten pork. According to their religious beliefs, pigs were unclean. Why were they raising pigs? Follow that question. And you realize this story and others that show up in the Gospel according to Mark, it was the earliest of the Gospels written. These stories were written not long after the Romans destroyed the Jewish temple in Jerusalem. It was a story about a land being occupied by the Roman Empire. Pigs would have been raised in order to feed Roman troops, not the Jewish people. And that man Legion, who was possessed, there's no question here about what this person who wrote this story was talking about, because the word legion is a very specific word that was used for a large group of Roman imperial soldiers. Legion. Beloveds, this is not some face value story about a man possessed by demons. It's a parable about the violence of imperialism. I know, right? It's a story where Jesus casts out the violent spirits of the Roman Empire and sends them into unclean animals that then drown themselves, kind of like when the Egyptians drowned after Moses parted the Red Sea in the Hebrew Bible, right? An added bonus, when the pigs in the story die, there goes the Roman soldiers' food. I'll never forget my Bible professor's face in seminary when he turns to us during this part of the story and he goes, "Economic sabotage?" When talking about this story, Christian historian Diana Butler Bass points out, the possessed man is the state of human beings under occupation. We go mad, tormented by death, stripped of dignity. It's a story about the horrors of living a life occupied by empire. That's what this story is about. Empire. It's important that we all understand empire, especially when talking about a Jesus story, because the more you learn about this guy Jesus, the more you learn that he was all about love and resistance, and love as resistance to empire was kind of his whole deal. So, and if you ask me, one of the greatest tragedies in human history has been how invoking Jesus' name and this book written about him later became a powerful tool of empire. So empire, what are we talking about? When we're talking about empire, we're not talking about Star Wars, although that's not a terrible example. We're talking about a ruling body having supreme control or domination or power over territories. Christian historian John Dominic Crossan and sociologist Michael Mann, they talk about empire and how they assert this kind of dominance. They assert it, they say, by combining 4 types of power: military power, economic power, political power, and ideological power. By ideological power, we mean like how we interpret the world, how we make meaning of things. And all of these powers together shape a person's behaviors and thinking, shape a people's behaviors and thinking. They shape nearly all facets of life. They creep so close that they become a part of us. Empire within us, policing us from the inside. The story of that exorcism of this man named Legion, it was a story about exorcising the demons of empire, casting out the harms and horrors of empire from his people's lands and from their lives. For Jesus and his people, it was the Roman Empire. In Star Wars, it's the empire. But we too live in empire, don't we? We do. We too live within a system of domination and control, don't we?
Yes.
And perhaps this is a reality you have known for a long time. Perhaps you long have felt the violence of empire directly upon your body or upon your spirit, or perhaps it's a reality you've woken up to recently amid the rise of fascism, overt fascism in our country, or amid the wealth gap growing to the greatest it has ever been. Not only has our country acted out empire and how it's asserted dominance overseas, but this land, this country here, home, our home, we as a people are also possessed by empire, aren't we? Not unlike that man in Jesus' story. And nowadays, the empire has far more territory over which to assert its control, right? Far more territory to conquer. It has crept in through our phones, through our computer screens, not just physical land, but right here in our pockets as well, in the most addictive devices that have ever existed. It's there. And this week, it was there on the internet where I was scrolling my news feed, and I learned of the news out of Minneapolis. It was there where I read a post someone had shared about how a federal agent, an armed agent in America's Legion, took the life of a beloved mother and poet, someone who had stuffed animals in her glove compartment. Took this life while her wife watched helpless. Renee Nicole Good's life now added to the long list of lives taken by ICE, but this time with ample, clear video evidence from multiple angles. The news hit me in the gut. I'm sure it did you as well. And then there, right below that post that hit me in the gut, right below on my phone, was an advertisement for a pair of jeans. It would almost be poetic if it weren't so disturbing, right? All these different facets of empire so blatantly on display in one place. The armed, military-esque occupation of our neighborhoods by ICE, the political occupation of our country, seen in how our leaders have reacted with total lack of accountability and egregious slander of Good's name. And then both the economic and ideological occupation, an example of that. This news is troubling you? Here, distract yourself with a nice hit of dopamine while shopping. No, you don't need to process your grief and your anger. This is all normal. No. Don't go anywhere. Don't do anything right now. Just stay here by yourself. Keep scrolling and scrolling. It'll get better, or maybe it won't. But remember, you can always buy these jeans. The brutality and cruelty of empire knows no bounds, does it? Beloved, this month our worship theme is resistance. And when I had planned for today's service to be about church as an important countercultural space in the world, I had it mapped out. It's one of the topics I'm most passionate about. I was going to give one of my great anti-consumerism spiels. I was going to pull out that list of reasons to join a church from that minister, that list with the colorful language. Do you remember it? Where he was like, church is the place to learn how to deal with a-holes without becoming an a-hole yourself. Remember that one? It's a good list, right? You'll hear it again. I had it all mapped out. Really important and great stuff. But then I scrolled past that post on my feed. And I realized what we need to talk about is the bigger picture. It's the picture of people living in empire and an empire living in people. It's the picture of a land possessed by empire and church. Faith communities, when done right, when done well, when done together in community, these are places where we can come to do our own exorcism, to cast out the demons of empire. You never expected your UU minister to talk about exorcism in a sermon, right? And you know that I'm not talking about supernatural demons, and I'm not even talking about individual people. I'm not saying these demons are individual people. These demons are all the ways of being that are imposed upon us that do not honor the sanctity of life. All of these ways of being that are imposed upon us that do not honor the sanctity of life. Together, let us work to cast out those demons of empire that have come to live within us, to cast out those demons of empire that are around us, in our communities, in our world. Let us work together to Let us work together to disentangle ourselves and each other from empire. To care for each other and to recover and heal from the harmful toll that it takes on our bodies, on our minds, on our hearts. We come together to imagine and turn toward a different way of being. A different way of being. Here in our faith community, we proclaim that the only true sovereign power we are loyal to is love. Love is what guides us. Love is the antidote to empire. Love. It's always love, isn't it? Love that reaches out and connects while empires isolate and divide. Love that nurtures and liberates while empires capture and control. Love that creates and inspires while empires destroy and desecrate. Love that nourishes and gives generously while empires take and extract. Love that opens and remains tender while empires harden and put up walls. Love that dances and sings while empires march and bear arms. Love that rejoices in interdependence and mutual flourishing while empires rejoice in convenience and efficiency. Love that reaches for truth and transformation while empires reach for profit and gain. This isn't some meek and mild love that I'm talking about. We're talking about fierce, strong, courageous, and committed love. What other spaces in the world exist in order to turn us toward that love? What other spaces in the world strive to hold us accountable to that love? What other spaces exist for that purpose? Other than here. That's what this congregation is for. That's what our faith communities are for. And so to our new members who have joined us today, we are so glad that you are on this journey of love with us. In a statement this week on Renee Good's murder, Becca Good spoke of going on to raise their 6-year-old son now without her beloved wife. And in considering how to talk to him about the agents of empire who took his mother's life, she said she's going to tell him that the people who did this had fear and anger in their hearts. Fear and anger in their hearts. And we need to show them a better way. May we show a better way, beloveds. May we let love show a better way. May that be what we do here. Because our faith tells us it does not have to be this way. That there is a better way. May it be so.